Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk you guys through the easiest way to move your data from your Google Photos account and Google Drive and onto a QNAP NAS. Now, in fact, today's video I'm going to cover 3 different ways that you can do it. Each one of these methods has got its own advantages and disadvantages, and ultimately today's video is about helping you decide which one best suits you when migrating away from the cloud. It is worth highlighting, of course, that there is a full guide in the description where I will talk you guys through this in a far more wordy way, and it tells you about some of the little advantages and disadvantages of QNAP as a brand if you want to go down this road. A number of you may be watching this because Google announced last year in 2020 that they were closing the unlimited photo backups on their Google Photos platform from phones, etc., and it would start adding to your overall storage from that point. And a number of you, rather than pay subscription services, have decided to go for a NAS. I've already talked about how to do it on a Synology, so now we're going to talk about it on a QNAP. Now, it's worth highlighting that photos on a QNAP can be viewed in a number of ways, but the two most popular ways are using PhotoStation, which is kind of the more business end photo application, and there's another application known as QMAGI, which is a photo recognition and cataloging tool that uses everything from thing recognition, subject recognition. It's got facial recognition as well, and it breaks things down quite beautifully using geolocational data and more, breaking it all down there into different categories. So there's lots of advantages to each. The PhotoStation application slightly different there. This is one that's more your classical photo arrangement, and again, you can break it down into folders if you choose. You can create smart albums. You can get real-time information about the photos and the background, the camera that took it. Lots of information about it. If we go for, say, this picture here, we'll go for that one, and we'll have a good old look at that. And we can find out lots of information about it there in the background. We can find out the kind of device that took it. We can find out information about location, all the metadata information built in the background. But that's enough talk about QNAP as a brand. Let's talk about how to transfer that information to come out of those apps. So the first method we're going to talk about is Google Takeout. Google Takeout is the one portal repository of all the data that you have provided to Google services, all the different platforms, all that information from YouTube videos all the way through to standard photos and analytical background information is all present here. So head to googletake.out.com. You will have to log in with your Google account. We're using the throwaway NAS Compares account for today's video. And the first thing you need to do is scroll down and unclick everything on the deselect all option. Scroll down and find Google Photos. This will allow you to download the full extent of all of your Google Photos information. Put a tick next to that. And if you are looking to download your Google Drive data instead of or as well as, just put a little tick next to that as well. So scroll on down after that, and at the bottom you'll find Next Step. Click Next Step, and then it will ask you about frequency and methods of download. Now, you can arrange this to be a one-off download, or you can regularly receive an email from Google allowing you to download all the information over that set period over a certain frequency. You can arrange for the download link to be via email, to be uploaded to your box, and lots of different ways that you can migrate that information, but all of these are just moving to other cloud services. What you want to do is download the link via email. Next, zip down here will allow you to have it as a compressed file. That's very, very important, and there are other protocols as well. Finally, at the bottom, you can say what you want to do about file sizes and having it broken down. Depending on the size of your photo collection, this will need to differ, but I recommend keeping it at 2 GB. Some file systems, for example FAT32, have difficulty with larger file sizes, I think above 3.7, maybe even 3.9 gig in size. So it's recommended that you let the Google Takeout download be blocked into 2 GB zip files. After that, click Export, and then it will start creating your download. Now bear in mind, just like it tells you here, that depending on the size of your collection of photos or Google Drive, depending on what you're downloading, this may take a different length of time. Luckily, the Google account we're using as a throwaway one, we've only put in one album, this one here. It's 27 photos, all from one album. So it'll be very, very quick indeed. And as you can see, it's immediately allowed us to download our file here. Now bear in mind, of course, when you're downloading files that you are downloading information from Google servers to here, so you will have to re-authenticate along the line. Also bear in mind that when you're downloading, if these file sizes are huge, we're talking tens, 20, hundreds of gigs over the years that you've backed up of your photos on that free photo policy, that this can take days, weeks, or just hour beyond hour realistically. Consequently, there's no point waiting for this page to refresh. You will get an email with a download link once this is done. You can close your web browser while waiting for this download to finish. But in my case, because it's quite small, it's readily available. Just click download there and the file will be downloaded. Now, when it's downloaded, it will be a nice, simple zip file like the one you've got here. And what you need to do next is right click and either, if you're using WinRAR, Legend, extract to there or just extract all. Once you've extracted it, it will give you a folder called Takeout. Inside there, go into the next folder, and then the next folder, and from there, if you haven't created preset albums on your Google Photos, each folder will just be the year and all the photos that were in that year. So they're the most important ones. Now, someone did highlight to me in a previous video about the JSON files, and the JSON files are actually quite important. It's the way Google removes a lot of that background data. So do make sure you keep those as well. So that's what we want to deal with here, these files and folders. And the next thing we want to do is make our way into our QNAP NAS. From here, you want to go into File Station. Now, unlike a lot of other NAS brands, you can actually be quite selective about where your media is going to live for all the different applications. I am going to put it straight into the multimedia folder, and I've got an album called Pictures. There's a bunch of albums already here, and then all you need to do is go to Google Photos, click both of these folders, or in your case, however many folders you've got, and drag them onto that folder. It will then begin transferring them over. It'll ask you if there's duplicated folders, what you want to do. So I'm going to go with rename duplicates, and then it will copy those files over to the NAS. As you can see, that's happening in the background, and the task manager will highlight how long it's going to take there. Now, as I mentioned, there are lots of different ways to do this, but before we go into any of the others, what we should also look at is pointing different apps at this. So for now, what we're going to do is we'll open up QMaggie. We'll also open up Photo Station. And as you can see, the system is already building thumbnails for our albums, the ones that we've transferred over to this collection. As we can see, a lot of these photos are now being transmitted over for us. So again, we can switch to the album view if we choose. We can also switch to folder view, go into multimedia, go into pictures, and we can see photos from 2017, photos from 2018. There are our albums that we've transferred over, and there's all of our pictures. Same goes for QMaggie. You can see that they're in the background because we've uploaded photos. It's now generating thumbnails and analyzing those files. And we're going to be getting those smart facial recognition and thing recognition very shortly. As you can see there, photos from 2018, there's our album. And again, we can then look into using QMaggie with its facial recognition and thing recognition. And you can see the recently imported files there to allow you to apply tags as you see fit. So that's the first way in which you can transfer photos to the NAS. The next way to do it is a little bit more caveman in its bulk of transferring things over, although it is completely automatic. The more automated way in which you can carry over your data from Google is heading over to the fantastic tool Hybrid Backup Sync 3 from QNAP. It's still, by my own measurements, one of the very best backup and synchronization tools available on NAS platforms. This will allow you to create a link between the QNAP NAS and your Google Drive, and from there you'll be able to automatically carry the data over, not just photos but all data. So there's lots of different ways to go about it, and I'm only going to show you one of many today, but what we want to do is look at the synchronization tab. From here, create a synchronization job, and from here we can either choose a two-way synchronization where the folder on the NAS and the folder on the cloud are identical at all times, a one-way sync where the one file will always copy the differences of the other. So if you are going to synchronize your NAS with the cloud, for example, the Google Drive, every time you add new folders to the drive, it will copy it over to the NAS. But if you delete the files from your drive, they will stay on the NAS. That's a one-way sync. And an active sync job is it actions as changes happen. As mentioned, there's lots of different ways in which you can action one of these two-way synchronizations with Google Drive and your QNAP NAS. So I'm going to show you one, but there's lots of different ways to do it. I'm going to make an active sync job. From here, it asks me to select the source storage space, which in our case is the cloud. We're going to go ahead and click Google Drive. It will then ask us to verify our account on the Google Drive with the QNAP NAS. It may ask you to verify your account. If it doesn't, due to you all having already been logged in, you can go ahead and click Allow. And this will allow the QNAP and your Google Drive to be synchronized. As you can see, it's a small amount of space, just like everyone else. You can either use proxy servers and SSL certificates for added security. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to untick that option just for the sake of ease. From here, click Create, and now it's going to register that connection between the QNAP NAS and the Google Drive, and then click Next. As you can see here, the local NAS has been listed, and from here we can name the job if we want, give it a description, and then we can choose which kind of action we want to perform, be it a two-way synchronization or a mirror, a copy that sends from one to the other, or a move that completely removes files from one and copies them onto the other, thereby removing them from the original location. You can find out more information here that will tell you a lot about the differences between each of these synchronization options, but for now I'm going to go ahead with a copy move. As you can see, first thing, the arrow there is the heaviest dictator where you have to know which direction the data is going in. Once you've synchronized that drive, just as we've done before, click the plus symbol and then it will show the directory of files and folders on your Google Drive. As you can see, that's them there, and there is our Google Drive with all of those files and folders. Select one or more files or folders that you want to carry over, or create a directory using the Create a Folder option and transfer those files over as needed. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and select an option. We're going to go with simply this photo album here and some pictures of my cats. From there, I'm going to click OK, and then on the other side, you've got to select the folder inside your NAS. And this is the folder on your NAS that you want to send these files to on behalf of the Google Drive. So in my case, I'm going to go into Multimedia, go into Pictures, and then copy it directly along with all the other photos, such as the ones we copied earlier from the Google Takeaway. Click OK, and there you go. You can add more files and folders if you choose, or create individual jobs for different directories. And from there, you can go ahead, change the policies if you choose. So if you've got the same file twice, what happens? And then after that, click Next. From here, whether you want this to have a schedule, real-time synchronization, which means it will get triggered when changes are made to files or folders, or run a schedule if you so choose. You can even run it after other jobs if you have them listed, so they can all run in a certain order. I'm also going to run this job immediately after this video ends. Click Next. Then apply filters if you choose, and filters will allow you to select different files and folders that you don't want to be copied. For example, if you only want to copy photos, but you don't want to copy temp files, background INI files, or anything to do with video, you can add them here and choose different file rules such as file sizes, dates of file changes, and more, and make sure that these changes are applied to any synchronization you do. But for now, I'm going to say don't apply filters. And there you go, it's asking you to confirm the job, and this will send data from that file there called Ron and Tammy into my Pictures folder on my NAS. I'm going to click Create, and it will add this job to the available list of jobs. And because I click the option, it's going to immediately begin that job in the background. Now, while it does that, I'm going to take a little bit of a moment to talk about the third way in which you can connect your Google Drive and, by extension, your Google Photos account with your QNAP NAS. And this is something that till recently they were the only brand that supplied, and that is called hybrid mount. Now, hybrid mount allows you to connect a cloud service like Google Drive, Dropbox and more, and after that connect it and use all of the QNAP services even though that data is on the cloud. You don't even need to transfer the files to your NAS. Adding a cloud service in this method, known as a cloud gateway, will allow you to add on the File Station tab the Google Drive, and once again by extension your Google Photos, to your available folders list, but this folder will not be living on the NAS. It remains on the cloud, but it allows you to view the files and use the analytical tools that are built into PhotoStation and QMaggie. It's a nice way for those of you that want to test out the QNAP's ability to handle photos without carrying the data over. This is more of a short-term idea, but it's still handy for a number of people to know how to do it. Creating and synchronizing the two are just as easy as you would think. It would ask you to select the cloud service, in this case Google Drive, select the cloud service once again as we've done before. It may ask you to verify, just like it's doing here. I've synchronized it there in the background and now just need to allow hybrid mount to connect to my Google account. And from here you can select which folders you want to synchronize with, or if you want the entire Google Drive to be visible with your QNAP NAS. But just remember, it doesn't require you to synchronize them in the same way. It will only hold a small amount of the data and more just the file structure. So you can go ahead and click next, and then what this will do is allow you to create that area of cloud gateway space from your QNAP NAS between that and the drive. But once again, this is a far more enterprisey type way and kind of allows you to have a more hybrid storage option. You can pursue that, and I have done other videos on cloud services like hybrid mount, but once again, that is more for people that want to take advantage of both Google's My Drive and Google Photos system in conjunction with a NAS rather than migrating away from one. And there you have it. It's copied over the album that we sent over from the Google Drive onto the NAS there with that synchronized task, the album known as Ron and Tammy. And if we make our way into the Photos folder on File Station, we can have a look and see that going into the pictures, scroll to the bottom, and there are our pictures. A few pictures of brand new kittens eating at home for the very first time. There you go. In case you're wondering who Rod and Tammy were, there you go. And if we make our way over to the Google Drive, there are exactly the same photos carried over. It's that straightforward. Now, before we finish up today's video, it is worth highlighting one of the main advantages that QNAP NAS has over a number of other brands, and that is that you can be a lot more customizable about where the media on your NAS lives. I touched on it vaguely earlier on, that even though you've got multiple photo apps on the NAS, each of which produce and show photos in their own ways, each of them can actually have their directories completely customizable. I mentioned earlier that I use the pictures folder there, but I don't have to do it that way if I don't choose. If you open up the tool Multimedia Console, it allows you to go in and manually select just where you want every single app to get its files and more. So for example, go to the indexing tab and you can see that it's all done from earlier. Next, go to Content Management, and from there, select the tool you want to customize. So in this case, PhotoStation. If you click Edit, you can see that I've told it to search the Pictures folder for all of the media. But if I choose, I can go ahead and select a new album. So for example, I can tell it to go into any one of these other folders and ask it to scrape data from there. So taking a look over here, we can see that there are other albums on this NAS. There's other albums with other data that we can go ahead and sequence. Now, perhaps inside these albums, we have media, such as here, where there's video files inside this folder, known as Video Edit. So, on this side, we can scroll down, find the Video Edit folder, and add Video Edit if we choose. From there, click Apply, and it will now add that folder to be scraped and sequenced for data by PhotoStation. If you want, you can go ahead and make exclusions that makes sure that some file types won't get scraped if you choose. And again, you can change it for every single one of those file types, allowing you to select which applications can access or sequence and index different files and folders, allowing the NAS to have to work around your folder structure, not the other way around. And with every app that you install that has anything to do with multimedia, you can go ahead and add them and change their own respective content sources. And as you can see, if we go into that app, it is now going to begin resequencing those files and photos, and it's going to find the new media that we've uploaded on each of them. If we go ahead, click folders, and you can see that video edit has been added, and the test files that we use for Plex Media Server will live there. Same goes for QMaggie, and it's that straightforward to not only carry over all of your media from Google Photos using Takeout and using synchronization tools from Google Drive to your NAS, but also customize the NAS exactly to your needs. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have found this rather long, dull, but useful video helpful. And if you did, click like, click subscribe to learn more, and visit the links in the description to the more wordy guide on today's walkthrough. And stay tuned for when we look at NASes from Acer Store and TerraMaster to once again show you the best and most effective ways to carry data over from Google Drive and Google Photos onto your NAS. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.